The Honourable Barnaby Joyce, MP. You don't need to stand. Barnaby, that's okay. Can you just state your name, position, title, and swear either an oath or affirmation for me, please?
Barnaby Joyce, member for New England, and I'd like to swear the oath. I swear that the evidence now about to be given by me shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Would you like to make a short opening statement before we go to questions?
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'd like to, and I appreciate the participation and attendance of all those in the committee. Mr. Chair, might I start by saying this whole thing the whole intermittent power issue is a swindle. It's a swindle and it's nomenclature. They mention farms. There's nothing like farms. They're future obsolescence. They say renewable, when we all know in the end they end up as landfill. It's an environmental swindle. It's the biggest industrial metamorphosis that the New England has ever seen of their landscape and the nature of the area. Even in this environmental swindle, our LPA agreement, which I am part of as a beef producer, we have to sign that we have a management plan to restrict stock from grazing near wind towers and near solar panels. I presume this is on the same premise as the concerns they have with such things such as PFAS, but in this issue it'll be such things as microplastics, bisphenol A, cadmium and lead. It's a swindle in far as the decommissioning goes. It promises a virtue, but it doesn't tell you how they're going to get rid of it. Senator Murray Watt, Labor Party Senator Murray Watt from Queensland, was quite precise when he said, when they asked at a federal inquiry who was responsible for the decommissioning, he said, well, that is for the farmer to contend with in their lease agreements. It's a swindle environmentally in regards to bird life and nature. We believe that as one raptor per year per tower will be killed by wind towers. Mr. Chair, it's a swindle in economics. What other part of our economy in the New England has subsidised capacity investment schemes, which basically underwrites you even if you make a loss, even if you don't produce enough electricity? We would love that in the cattle industry, where we get paid even if we didn't produce cattle. It has government-paid transmission lines, and Energy Co being a classic example of that. It has a policy where it is almost compulsory, well, it is compulsory, for a section of that product to be purchased. It has provided policy that basically bans its competition in removing other things such as base load power. Most importantly, it's a swindle in virtue. Hospitals are virtuous, but you see them in cities. Roads are virtuous, and you see them in cities. But intermittent power precincts, which could quite ably be built off the coast of Sydney or off the coast of Melbourne, are not built there because apparently the virtue runs out when you're inside of the city. It is an issue that the virtue doesn't go as far as getting an ironclad promise that any of the solar panels will have anything to do with the slave labour that constructs solar panels in Sichuan province, or that the cobalt in the solar panels, in the solar panels doesn't come from the child labour in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. These are things that in that virtuous, swami presentations we get, which are distinctly left behind. It's a swindle, Mr. Chair, in the fact that so many promises are made to local communities and so little is delivered. Let's look at Glen Innes as a classic example. Basically billions invested in intermittent power precincts, but what's happened to the town? Has its population grown? Are there new industries there? Are there new jobs there? There's only probably a handful, maybe one or two. There's no car park at the intermittent power precinct because hardly anybody works there. Yet they promise so much. So why is it happening, Mr. Chair? It's happening because there is a massive pecuniary benefit that goes to a select few. And we can see those proponents out there at the moment. Mr. Forrest, Chinese overseas companies, multinational companies from China, from Singapore, from France, from Holland. These are the real benefits of this swindle on the Australian people and this swindle on the people of New England. And as we see on our community, bad policy makes bad politics. You've not just divided our community down the middle, you have divided them 90% to 10%, with 90% in some sections furious, politically furious at the lack of representation, politically furious at the low volume that should be played out on their behalf, furious because they feel that they've been completely run over, And 10% who may be in support feel isolated and intimidated. But this carpet-bagging approach is to be seen. Small country communities and country halls going through this micromanagement so they're not properly heard, pushed to separate corners of the rooms, basically told that everything's going to be fine, making sure that they do not get their community right to speak as one community until you enforce it on those especially from Energy Co, coming to so-called consult with them. I've been invited to Willamette Hall and seen this in process. I've been invited to Limbri Hall and see this in process. These are good country people who've had limited experience with the highest levels of government, with the highest levels of corporations, and they've been run over. This is salt in their wounds when I see them turning up in their hired SUVs with their double-pocketed shirts and their first purchase RMs, as they basically make their way trying to look, having the clobber of the bucolic. And then, as they've got over the people, as they've had their way, go back to the lounge at the airport, fist pumping, saying what a great job they've done because they've basically belittled and rolled over people. At Gowrie, I saw landholders, I think it was Energy, the corporation Energy, saying to them that their actual land will increase in value when they're encircled with solar panels. When I reproached them on this and said that's a warrant that you have now given, so do you now promise that if a valuation is taken now and a valuation is taken later, that you will pay them the difference? Of course, they said they wouldn't. I said, well, you're lying. And we are over the emotion. We don't care if as a proponent you start crying. It means nothing to us because you are hurting us so badly. We have noted, and I've noted, I would also note that our family was offered the chance to be a site for a proponent, and as the Joyce family said, we are not interested in that. We produce food, we produce fibre, we don't rip off pensioners with an exacerbation of their power price. So I declare our interest in that we said no. But in the discussion, other people have intermittent power precincts, and when we've been given, on a personal level, representations that they will change where the corridor goes, so it doesn't go over the best of our farmland, so it doesn't go over our airstrip, which I'm about to start using right now, that it doesn't go over what was clearly noted in our area as the Aboriginal place that we can clearly prove was historically of Aboriginal significance. They don't care. Laws like that don't matter for them. And they continue on. Even though they've given multiple representations, we're going to change. I've just checked the map right then, and it's going exactly where it was always going to go. And that's emblematic of the arrogance of this process. We have seen the people in Energy Co turn up and say that very sillily in front of my wife that we cannot allow the media there. Well, that's a bit of a problem because she's a senior columnist for The Telegraph. So what we have to do, the final insult for this is that it doesn't work. What we are seeing with intermittent power and its process as part of apparently net zero is the vast majority of the GDP and the vast majority of the population of the globe, whether it's fortunate or wrong or whatever, but they're not participating in it. So the efficaciousness of this process is null and void. It doesn't have effect. It is not going to do anything. So why are we continuing on with it? We now have local governments. They're not going to be, there is no real promise of help for local governments. I don't go to areas and see that new dams are being built or new precincts are being built for the apparent flow in of industry that's going to happen, because it's not going to happen. What will happen is oversized, overmassed vehicles will wreck the roads. What will happen is that we'll have fire risk delivered into our area. What we will have is, because no one has any plan for the decommissioning of these, and might I state that the Labor Party Ombudsman, Andrew Wyatt, stated clearly about 2 years ago that for a structurally sound one, $600,000 a tower, for structurally unsound ones, this is 2 years ago, $1.6 million a tower. That means if the farmer's responsible for it, we are heading towards, and I used to value land for a company called QIDC, we are heading towards negative value on farmland. You will not be able to borrow against it. No one will want to buy it. And that's what we've created. No government with all their virtue, has come out and said, well, like a coal mine, we will underpin the rehabilitation and recommitment of that land to its former state because it knows it costs too much. So they're fobbing that off to the farmer, and we've stood by and let that happen. We have done nothing about it. No private member's bill, no speech in the Parliament, nothing has been happening about this. So my job in politics is to stand up against the powerful on behalf of the powerless. And I mean that, the powerless, because that's what we are creating. We are creating ultimately a society where people cannot afford electricity. We have, in the area where I live, which is one of the poorest schools in New South Wales, you can check that up, people who've been pushed out of their house to live in a car because they just can't afford to live anymore. What is the virtue of that? What is the moral of that? Where is the benefit of that? How do you justify that and that a billionaire becomes wealthier? Or that an overseas company makes their money out of a government underwritten guarantee when the ultimate side of that is poor Australians are put into destitution? Is that what the virtue of this product is? Is that what the virtue of this process is? It's a disgrace. It should be scrapped. And let's see if after this committee, and I wish you all the very best, I bless you with all the motivation you can have, but let's actually see, just like everything else, whether anything actually changes.
Thank you, Barnaby. I might pass to my colleague Sarah Mitchell to
I'll
fire off her
a
questions.
couple. Thanks, Barnaby. Thank you for coming and for your very passionate and eloquent, as always, submission on behalf of the community. I just wanted to ask a little bit more. You touched on it a bit, but just in terms of the impact, and some of the councils talked about that earlier too, around broader impacts on your electorate, housing, transport. We talked about the New England Highway and, if you're going to try and bring wind turbines up, what that would mean. Can you just elaborate a bit more on that from your perspective as the local member?
I believe, Sarah, I have, but after 20 years in politics, unfortunately, developed a sense of cynicism. I see now that after the money, to be honest, the previous coalition got, but it was delayed in the construction of the Muswellbrook bypass, and they're now going forward with it. There's nothing to do to help the people in Muswellbrook. That's to get blades up. That's what that's about. That's why they're paying overtime, double time to get Singleton finished, to get the blades up. See, the blades have more benefit than the people. And what we have, Sarah, in areas like here, we have small councils. They do not have the resources of Sydney. They're on a stringent budget and they have restricted expertise. If there was honesty, if everything that was offered as a warrant to the people of the country areas was true, then they'd already be fixing up the roads, Sarah, to take these in, but they're not. They'd already be fixing up the bridges, but they're not. They'd already be double-sizing and gravelling the roads to where these precincts will be, but they're not. They'd already be coming up and allocating areas of new industrial area for the new industries that are going to be absolutely mobbing in to Armidale and to Tamworth, but they're not. In fact, they've removed our funding for such things as Dungowan Dam. They've never promised any upgrade of Malpas Dam. They've stalled things such as the Tenterfield bypass because the wind blades don't need to go past there. And so what we have is councils, and they're good people, but I believe on this section there's a lot of naivety because they're not going to get anything but the future prospect. And we have 1 million solar panels here, Sarah. Where are they? They don't last forever. Everybody knows that. So where are they going? Where are they burying these things? What are they going to do? What happens if some of the cadmium and the lead gets into the groundwater? Or is that a problem that we'll leave for our children to fix in 20 years' time? Where's that plan? And where's the plan to... do you know now, Sarah, I can't, under Regulation 2.8 of my LPA assessment, I am not allowed to graze around wind towers or solar panels. I have to show my management plan to restrict access of stock to them. So if the wind towers next door what's the recompense to me? I can't graze cattle in that area. Now, we are the Joyces of beef producers. We sell cattle. And we're very proud of what we do and what we've done basically for generations. And this is You know, so on an environmental basis, we're going to bring poison into our pastures. It's amazing.
Did you want to make any comments about the housing issues as well, that like obviously you represent Tamworth and Armidale as well, but what are people raising with you around that?
Well, Sarah, we know what happens, and I've seen something very similar in the coal seam gas issue in southwest Queensland while I was there. This is rinse and repeat of coal seam gas, only this time it's Windhouse. Virtue issues, carpetbaggers, deals being flipped and flipped and flipped, and the ultimate beneficiary is those who get the DA through. I mean, they're the ones who make, there's tens of millions of dollars been made by just people who've scratched the paper and got the paper working. Now, what's happening on the housing issue is they need temporary accommodation. They don't want to wear the costs of permanent accommodation. What you will get here is what you get in mining camps. You're going to get Dongerville. They'll be bringing in dongers on the back of a truck. There'll be fly-in, fly-out contractors. It will not be locals, but you will get a temporary exacerbation of any accommodation locally as they come in, gobble up all spare accommodation. And for that, once more, who is affected, Sarah? It's the poorest people. They're the ones who can't find the house. They're the ones who get pushed out into the street. In my office, I have people both from the Aboriginal community and basically in the local community saying we can't find houses. But we're going to make this situation for a period of years, we're going to exacerbate it. Yeah, but where's the virtue saying, we're going to deal with that, we're going to build for it now? There is none, because it's a lie. It's a lie.
We haven't got much time, so I'll let on.
Ms Munro?
You go.
Sure. So just, you sort of touched on the issue of foreign ownership. Just wondering if you expand on your concerns around sovereign risk for a lot of these projects and what that means for local communities.
Well, I think the first thing, Chair, is it shows that the domestic benefit is limited. In fact, all we have is a domestic cost. There is no domestic benefit. And in politics, I don't know whether it's the same at a state level, the geniuses in this wear orange lanyards. They're called lobbyists. And they've done an exceptional job of being heard at the highest levels for a deal that there is no downside on. Mr Chair, the benefit of this, as a person who worked in banking or as an accountant and person who worked in banking for 4 years, is the paper it's written on. This time, when you say it's not worth the paper it's written on, oh boy, this one is worth the paper it's written on. A guaranteed rate of return that's hidden, commercial in confidence on the budget papers, NFP, not for publication. All I have to do is have that piece of paper and I'm guaranteed money, I'm guaranteed loot. So we have overseas companies that what happens is one person buys it, they flip it to another person, clear their risk, so they're not indebted to the farmers, all the guarantee's gone. The next person buys it, the next person buys it. It is total carpetbagging. But the beneficiary of this, even if you had some solace, some modicum of joy, you would see the local community of Armidale being the beneficiary of this, or of Wagga, or of Dubbo, or maybe of Glen Innes. But it's the town, the village of Shanghai, of Singapore, of Amsterdam, and then billionaires such as, and God bless him, good luck to him, he's a great businessman, Andrew Forrest. That's who the beneficiary of this is. I mean, where? You've got the Department of the Environment at a federal level. We haven't got so much as one office away from Canberra, yet this is apparently to help the environment.
Obviously, this job of the committee is to make recommendations to the government outside of scrapping the whole bloody thing, which I don't think I'll get up as a recommendation.
Yeah.
What would you recommend in my shoes?
As you remove the reason it stands up on economic feed is because there's no economic cost. All risks are taken away. I would say recommendation number one. Everything pertinent to intermittent power first, recommendation number one, change the nomenclature. They are intermittent power precincts, not to be referred to as renewables or farms ever again, and because it belittles what farms are. We run a farm. This is not a farm. The nomenclature to be changed to the honest expression of what they are. Number two, that all agreements pertinent to that are to be open for the public to see. Nothing in secret. No more secret agreements. If you believe it, if it's virtuous, if it's true, if it's just, then stand behind your documentation. Stand behind your figures. Number 3, that everything, that there's to be a cut and paste of all the guarantees that are given to people in the mining industry for the construction of a coal mine are to be given to intermittent power, to those living with intermittent power precincts. Therefore, then the government will make sure that the documentation stands up for the rehabilitation and reclamation of land. Because that's what they do in coal industry. On our place, we also have a mine. When the proponents disappeared, and we hated the mine, the government, state government had to come in and clean it up. Now, on these, no, they will fall over in the paddock. That's exactly what happens in other countries. So there must be a cut and paste, and everything that's offered to areas with coal mines is exactly what's offered in regards underwriting the legacy of these projects to communities. Number 4, that there would be a massive investment project to actually deal with such things as the wear and tear to roads, as the damage to towns, that you invest in actual housing projects prior to the contractors turning up. I suppose number 5 is that if you truly believe in this, there should be no discrimination as to where they go. If these things can be viably built off the coast of Manly Beach, then that's where you build them. If the transmission lines can go over Mossman, that's where they go.
Thank you. Questions from... Yes.
If I may, thank you, Mr. Joyce, for coming today.
I don't think you mean that, Peter, but anyhow, go on.
Always happy to see you, Barnes.
Yep, thank you, Peter.
Back when you launched the White Rock Wind Farm in April 2016, can I just quote briefly from your press release? The White Rock Wind Farm will put New England on the map as a national leader in renewable energy production and drive local jobs and economic activity through the construction phase. 175 megawatt generating capacity of the project will make it larger than any operating wind farm in New South Wales. This and other clean energy projects proposed for the region will ensure New England is a major player in the field and sending power to the New England and beyond. Clean energy is essential to meet our emissions reduction targets. Were you wrong then?
Absolutely. Peter, as John Maynard Keynes said, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir? And the facts have well and truly changed. Peter, even in intermittent power, we'll call them intermittent power from now on, you get to a level of around about 30%, and then physics wins the argument because it just doesn't work. Peter, since that time, what have we seen happen to our power bills? Have they gone down or gone up? They've gone up. In fact, they've gone through the roof. In fact, now they laud themselves saying we're 42% intermittent power, but our bills since the period of time of basically where this has started, I think they've more than doubled. So, Peter, you have to get to a point where you say, yes, I was wrong. You asked me, was I wrong? I'm absolutely 100% was I wrong, Peter. But now I change my mind and I change direction and I'll fight for the people and correct my position. And I hope that other politicians decide to correct their position.
Joyce, I just had one question. I was reading that you were intending on bringing a private members bill.
I am bringing a private members bill.
Which was, in essence, going to abandon net zero.
That's exactly what it's going to do.
The move to a low-carbon economy.
100%.
Yep. Well, I just wanted to know, does the Coalition Party Room support that bill?
No, they don't.
Right, so you're on your own with that one.
I'm happy to be on my own. I've been there a number of times, Cameron, and I'm back there again. I think people have got to understand just how alone I'm prepared to be.
Thanks.
Yeah, Ms. Monroe.
Thank you so much for coming today. It's good to hear your submission, and obviously you have a lot of supporters in the room. Yeah. I'm curious about what you say to landholders who are actually bringing these solar panels and wind turbines onto their properties, and how you respect their right to use their land.
Jackie, that's a very, very good question. My neighbours, who we've been basically generational friends with, and I intend to stay that way, having an intermittent power precinct there. We were offered, Jackie, the same opportunity. We didn't believe it was an opportunity. We believed it was a rip-off of pensioners. That was morally incorrect through our view. This is one of the most divisive things that have happened in our communities. If you take just a normal point of engagement, which might be the local football game on the weekend, where people will walk up to someone and say, there's that FC, and say it to people's face. We've done this, Jackie. We've done this to our own communities. And it is because there's so much to lose on one side, to be quite frank, on when you're there's a property sold just lately, Jackie, called Dungown Station, and we believe there was a huge impairment on the value of that asset by reason of the proposed transmission lines. We see that we think a 20% and more diminution in the value of our asset by reason of these, yet they pay us $10,000 a kilometre. But then they say $200,000, but it's actually over 20 years. You can have it. Now, Jackie, the reason they get in on this is you find people who are under stress. This is how swindlers work. And offer them, and then look into their eyes and say, how much can I get away with to rip this person off? At the start, Jackie, people were getting paid like $3,000 a tower, $2,000 a tower. Now they're up to $45,000 a tower. Are they going back to the other people and saying, oh, we kind of ripped you off, so we're going to pay you a little bit more? No, they're not. And so what's happened is people say, this is a great management plan that I can hand the property over and get an income stream for myself and retire to the coast. What they don't see is the obvious obsolescence that's coming their way, and they're actually responsible. They will be responsible if there's an order put on them for the reclamation of the land. And so the kids won't have a property. The kids will have a problem, a massive financial problem.
So how have you maintained your relationship with your neighbours?
By being straight, by being open to my position, but never going argumentum ad hominem. And so, it's hard, Jackie, because we're families, as I said, we're generational friends, and people are decent people, and we don't think there is a sort of nefarious aspect of their personality. We believe they have been ripped off. And now we're finding that, guess what? They have been ripped off. I mean, one saying, I've got a $100,000 bond, saying, mate, they won't cover the decommissioning of one tower.
So if they were like for example, if there were decommissioning bonds and there were programs that put in place a more robust framework and there was improved financial compensation, would you feel more comfortable with the decisions that these landowners make?
Well, what I'd worry about then, Jackie, is maybe I feel okay on a personal level, on a family level. I mean, you take a simple thing like, for instance, a transmission line goes right over the front of our place. In fact, they bifurcate it. They really don't like us. They split it into two on the top end of our place and take it back to one at the bottom end of our place. And I think it's only because we own the place. And we said, why is it there? And they said, it just needs to be there. And we say, you're going over our airstrip. You're going over an Aboriginal, basically, site. You're going over our best farming land, which we can't operate on after that. I said, why don't you just go back the other side of the hill? We hate it, but it'll still be on our land. But the other side of the hill, it's not going to worry us. It's not going to worry our neighbours. It's not going to worry other good people. Not doing that. Why? Because we're stronger than you. We can do what we like. We can hurt you any way we want. But if I going back to the substance of your question, Jackie, okay, so I feel better. What do I say to the pensioner that's been pushed out and put in a car? What do I say to that lady who's, at the vulnerable time of her life, and I'm thinking exactly of a case, in the late 60s, and saying, oh, I'm okay, but you sleep in your car, sucked in.
Thank you. I think we spoke to the councils about those issues, so there's obviously an awareness that this is a real problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that unfortunately takes us to the end of our time with you, Barnaby, but thank you for coming and giving an honest and frank appraisal of the situation. You haven't taken any questions, I noticed, but there may be some supplementaries, and the Secretariat will be in touch. But thank you once again for your time and your work.
I really appreciate that you're here. Thank you very much.